This has been a massive project we pursued over a number of years. We sought to determine and define the soul of the South African government. The review draws on data and analysis from a range of reputable sources, including statistics, South Africa, Human Sciences Research Council, HSRC, United Nations Development Program, UNDP, School of Public Management and Planning, University of Stellenbosch Institute of Social and Economic Research. Rhodes University reports and internal documents from multiple government departments. These sources were perused for trends, evaluations, impact assessments, and policy tracking data. These sources were perused for trends, evaluations, impact assessments, and policy tracking data. Just as importantly, extensive consultations and interviews were conducted with citizens across urban townships, rural villages, and peri-urban settlements. Their lived experiences, frustrations, and aspirations were treated not as anecdotes, but as crucial evidence, providing a human pulse to complement the statistical indicators. This bottom-up lens ensured that the review is not merely a technical analysis, but a grounded account of how policies are actually felt and experienced by the people they are meant to serve. This report is not an academic lament. It is a forensic dissection, a piercing look into the anatomy of a system designed to sustain itself while the nation crumbles under its weight. It draws on hard data, field interviews, and lived experiences, from the grassroots to the corridors of power. We invite you to read not as a passive observer, but as a citizen. For until this behemoth is named, exposed, and confronted, the promise of democracy will remain just that, a promise, not a reality. South Africa is not crippled by a lack of government. It is suffocated by too much of it. Ministries, departments, agencies, advisory panels, all brimming with officials, comrades, cadres, consultants, and ghost workers. Strategic plans multiply. Frameworks swell. Budgets expand. Conferences repeat. Yet the streets remain broken, clinics understaffed, schools collapsing, and promises empty. This is not a hollow state. It is the behemoth bureaucratic state. An overgrown machine built to feed itself, not serve the people. It is loud in action but quiet in delivery. Busy with meetings but barren of outcomes. It does not reform. It regenerates. It does not collapse. It adapts to preserve itself. Every policy failure is not an accident, but a consequence of design. A design where loyalty matters more than skill, where networks matter more than merit, and where procedures mask paralysis. This is a government where insiders thrive, while citizens are left to navigate neglect. This review is not an academic exercise. It is a direct, unflinching examination, built on hard data, on-the-ground voices, and lived realities. It cuts through the noise of official optimism to reveal the state as it truly functions. Read it not as theory, but as a mirror. For unless this behemoth is named, exposed, and dismantled, South Africa's dream of transformation will remain trapped beneath its own bureaucracy.
In the heart of the valley, where the rivers flow, from the mountains high to the fields below, a tapestry woven with stories untold. In the warmth of the sun, every dream.
The behemoth bureaucratic state. How the South African government is destructive against citizens. Introduction. South Africa is not crippled by a lack of government. It is suffocated by too much of it. Ministries, departments, agencies, advisory panels all brimming with officials, comrades, cadres, consultants, and ghost workers. Strategic plans multiply. Frameworks swell. Budgets expand. Conferences repeat. Yet the streets remain broken, clinics understaffed, schools collapsing, and promises empty. This is not a hollow state. It is the behemoth bureaucratic state. An overgrown machine, built to feed itself, not serve the people. It is loud in action, but quiet in delivery. Busy with meetings, but barren of outcomes. It does not reform, it regenerates. It does not collapse, it adapts to preserve itself. Every policy failure is not an accident, but a consequence of design. A design where loyalty matters more than skill, where networks matter more than merit, and where procedures mask paralysis. This is a government where insiders thrive, while citizens are left to navigate neglect. This review is not an academic exercise. It is a direct, unflinching examination built on hard data, on-the-ground voices, and lived realities. It cuts through the noise of official optimism to reveal the state as it truly functions. Read it not as theory, but as a mirror. For unless this behemoth is named, exposed, and dismantled, South Africa's dream of transformation will remain trapped beneath its own bureaucracy. You don't need a degree in public administration to see the truth. Just walk into any government office. Behind the security desk, past the motivational posters and dusty performance charts, you'll find a maze of desks, files, idle chatter, and endless waiting. But what you won't find is urgency or outcomes. Between 1994 and today, South Africa's public sector ballooned into one of the most expensive and inefficient bureaucracies in the developing world. With over 1.3 million public servants on the payroll, many earning above market rates, the state spends more on salaries than on building or maintaining anything. Ministries are layered on top of departments, with units, subunits, and special advisors forming a dense web of overlapping mandates. Chapter 1: A Nation of Officers: How Government Grew Fat. South Africa does not suffer from a lack of government, it suffers from a surplus of it. From the union buildings to dusty municipal corridors in Limpopo, the state is everywhere. A vast patchwork of ministries, departments, directorates, units, subunits, boards, commissions, councils, advisors, consultants, and office bearers. Each has a title, each draws a salary. Each adds another layer to a government system now so bloated. Even insiders struggle to explain who does what. After 1994, the dream was a lean developmental state, a public service rooted in Bathopiel. People first. But what emerged was something else entirely. A bureaucratic behemoth, designed not to serve the people, but to hire, absorb, and feed its own. The explosion of the state between 1995 and 2023. The number of civil servants ballooned to over 1.3 million, making South Africa's public wage bill one of the highest in the world relative to GDP. According to Treasury, public service compensation consumes more than 35% of the national budget. That's more than what is spent on repairing infrastructure, building schools, or growing the economy. Why? Because every election adds another layer of comrades to be deployed. Departments don't shrink, they replicate. Failed entities aren't closed, they are renamed, rebranded, or merged with others. In this machinery, failure is rewarded with promotion, and redundancy is disguised as transformation. What was once a civil service became a political reward system. Loyalty over competence. Hiring is not based on skill or merit, but on political loyalty. A young professional with a degree in public policy might be rejected, while a friend of a regional secretary with no qualifications gets appointed as director. This is the logic of cadre deployment, a strategy perfected by the ruling party, in which party allegiance trumps expertise. The result? Officials with no clue are running budgets they don't understand, programs they don't believe in, and departments they cannot lead. Ghost workers and dead systems. In one Eastern Cape municipality, a whistleblower revealed 248 ghost employees on the payroll, people who either never existed, had long retired, or had died. The system kept paying them. The money kept disappearing. These are not isolated incidents. Across provinces, there are thousands of such positions. In some cases, One person holds 3 jobs, all under false names, drawing triple salaries. In others, junior staff are paid more than their managers because of political connections. Meanwhile, IT systems crash, files disappear, phones ring endlessly, and when the public arrives for service, they are treated like a nuisance, a disruption. To the government's comfort, where are the services? Go to a public hospital in the Northern Cape, you may wait 12 hours to be seen. Doctors are few. Equipment is old. But in the Regional Department of Health Office, there are directors of supply chain management, strategic planning, wellness programs, stakeholder coordination, performance evaluation, and internal auditing, all sitting behind desks, most doing nothing measurable. In Gauteng, schools are crumbling. But the Department of Education has over 400 senior managers, many of whom have no background in education. Their offices are air-conditioned, their cars are new, their meetings are frequent, their impact invisible. What we have built, what we have in South Africa, is not an underdeveloped state. It is an overdeveloped bureaucracy. It is not a question of too little government, but too much of the wrong kind. The kind that writes endless policies, but delivers no outcomes, produces colorful PowerPoints, but no clinics, evaluates itself, praises itself, and renews itself, regardless of results. This is a machine that feeds itself while starving the nation. The people, no citizens, know what's going on. They don't need white papers or strategic frameworks to tell them the state is broken. They see it when their ID takes 6 months, when a police station has no working vehicle, when textbooks arrive in October, when taps run dry and electricity vanishes. They know the behemoth does not exist for them, it exists for those inside it. The system isn't broken, it's designed. This way, the greatest myth in South Africa is that the government is failing. It's not failing, it's functioning exactly as designed. To sustain loyalty networks, to feed insiders, to produce the illusion of progress, not the substance of it. This is the behemoth bureaucratic state. It is not a ghost, it is not hollow, it is full, loud, and alive, but only for itself. Chapter 2: Cadre Capitalism, the rise of tenderpreneurs and the looting economy. ANC didn't nationalize the economy, it privatized the state, not through open markets, but through contracts, tenders, and political favors. In this model, wealth is not created, it is extracted from government budgets, from municipal coffers, from SOEs, from the future. What emerged is not capitalism, it is not socialism, it is not even a mixed economy. It is cadre capitalism, a unique South African invention where the economy is run by those who run the party, and wealth flows, not through innovation, but through proximity to power. What is a tenderpreneur? A tenderpreneur is not an entrepreneur. He doesn't build products, he doesn't create services, he doesn't innovate. He positions himself close to politicians, secures government tenders, and outsources the work, if it gets done at all. He wears a suit, drives a German car, posts motivational quotes, but his wealth was not earned. It was politically transferred. In this world, success is not about excellence, it's about access. The anatomy of a tender scamlets. Break it down. A municipal official, often a deployed cadre, flags a need, say, road maintenance. The tender is advertised, but the process is rigged. Criteria are tailored to fit a friend or shell company. A politically connected business gets awarded the job, often at 5 times the market rate. The work is half done, never done, or subcontracted to someone else who does it poorly. Money moves, invoices are paid, kickbacks are exchanged. The public, left with a gravel road, a broken water pipe, or a bridge that collapses. And when the Auditor General flags it, a commission is formed. A scapegoat is found. Life moves on. $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Eskom, contracts worth billions handed. 2 politically connected firms for coal, security, and consulting with little to show. Municipalities' Auditor General reports reveal $20 billion in irregular expenditure every year. COVID-19 PPE scandal, masks and sanitizers became gold. Inflated prices, unregistered suppliers, politically connected names. all looting under the cover of a crisis. Housing projects, thousands of built homes, only exist on paper. Bricks delivered to empty fields. Money gone. This is not corruption. It is organized extraction, a system, not an exception. The death of real enterprise while tenderpreneurs flourish. Real entrepreneurs are strangled. They face late payments from government. Endless red tape. No support if they lack connections. In Cadre Capitalism, the most dangerous thing you can be is an honest, skilled business person without political ties. You are ignored. You are delayed. You are denied. The result? A hollowed out economy, where production dies and consumption is debt-driven, where employment drops, but luxury cars rise, where the state becomes the only client worth chasing, because it pays for failure. The culture of looting this isn't just about economics. It's a moral economy. Young people are watching. They see that those who loot become millionaires. Those who study, hustle, or serve become broke. What message does that send? Why wait in a bank queue when you can open a shelf company and bid for tenders with nothing but a Gmail account? The idea of building the country has been replaced by eating the country. Not because of ideology, but because of greed, impunity, and learned behavior from the top. The marriage between bureaucracy and looting this is where it all connects. The bureaucracy built in Chapter 1 is not separate from the looting described here. It is the very system that enables it. Every unnecessary job, every strategic plan, every supply chain director with no experience, they are part of the machine. The tender system thrives because the bureaucracy exists to serve it, not to guard against it. Policies are drafted not to deliver outcomes, but to open new revenue streams for insiders. The public becomes an excuse. The state becomes a feeding trough. A country where looting is a career path in Cadre Capitalism. The state is the economy, and its main product, contracts, kickbacks, connections. Until we sever the pipeline between political loyalty and economic benefit, South Africa will remain a nation that spends, but doesn't build. That pays, but doesn't produce. And the greatest tragedy. The people still wait in queues, in shacks, in silence. Chapter 3, The Performance Illusion. How the state manufactures progress without delivery. South Africa's government does not lack documents. It drowns in them. Every year brings a flood of annual reports, performance plans, strategic frameworks, developmental blueprints, ministerial speeches, and glossy brochures, each filled with targets, indicators, milestones, and colorful charts. On paper, South Africa looks like a country on the move. Ask the jobless graduate, ask the farmer without electricity. The answer is always the same: we don't feel it. The truth is this: South Africa's state has perfected the art of appearing busy while going nowhere. This is the performance illusion, a mirage of motion created through paperwork, staged events, inflated metrics, and internal applause. The tyranny of targets. Every government department has a performance management system. It exists not to track real impact, but to manufacture a sense of success. Here's how it works. A department sets its own targets. It chooses targets that are easy, vague, or hard to measure. It spends the year chasing those numbers, not real outcomes. When audit time comes, it submits a report full of self-congratulation. The minister quotes these stats in Parliament. The media reports it. Meanwhile, nothing has changed on the ground. Example: a department claims 90% achievement of targets, but the clinics under its control have no medicine. A municipality boasts 100% youth engagement because they hosted a workshop with 20 interns. This isn't governance. It's theatre. Events, not impact. If there's one thing South Africa's state knows how to do, it's host an event. Women's Month. Stage a seminar. Youth Month. Host a fun walk. Heritage Month. Buy a tent, order catering, give out caps. Millions are spent on sound systems, backdrops, transport, photography, and performers. Speeches are made. Banners are hung. Slogans are printed. But once the event is over, nothing remains. No jobs created. No skills transferred. No services improved. This is governance by calendar, not by consequence. The budget gets spent, the boxes get ticked, but the people remain stuck. A paper empire. South Africa's policy environment is so dense, it has become a forest of paper. White papers, green papers, discussion papers, draft bills, final bills, strategic plans, operational plans, annual performance plans, development frameworks, impact assessments, midterm reviews. Each is aligned to the next. Each is linked to a conference, a consultant, a task team. Each is evidence-based. Each is eventually ignored. When something fails, the response is predictable. We need another plan. The irony, there's more planning than doing, more reviewing than delivering, more monitoring than moving forward. The language of false progress government communication is soaked in empty self-congratulatory language. We have made significant strides. The department continues to demonstrate its commitment to service excellence. Challenges remain, but progress is underway. But when citizens hear these words, they feel insulted because they know the language of government is often a shield, not a window. Even in reports where 10 billion rands goes missing, the tone remains upbeat. Even when a project fails dismally, the conclusion is, lessons have been learned. No one is fired. No one is jailed. The document is filed away. The cycle begins again. Self-praise and no accountability in the private sector. When you fail to deliver, you're fired. In government, when you fail, you get an acting position or moved sideways. Why? Because in the behemoth bureaucratic state, the real skill is survival, not service. There is no culture of consequence. Performance reviews are tick-box rituals. MPs ask scripted questions. Ministers offer vague replies. Reports go to Parliament, but no real debate happens. Instead, the illusion of delivery is preserved to keep funding flowing, headlines clean, and public anger contained. When the people stop believing the greatest danger of the performance illusion is not wasted money, it's wasted belief. People stop trusting the system. They stop applying for tenders they'll never win. They stop reporting corruption no one will act on. They stop voting. They stop dreaming. The performance illusion is not harmless. It is fatal to hope, and once a nation loses hope, it becomes easy to control. You don't need police to suppress a people who have already given up. The show must not go on. South Africa cannot afford to keep putting on a show. The time for staged success and padded stats is over. What the country needs now is real outcomes, real competence, and real accountability, not another report. Not another photo op, not another vague speech. The behemoth bureaucratic state survives by performance. The people survive by patience. But patience, like money, eventually runs out. Chapter 4: Weaponizing Transformation. How the language of justice became a tool of control in the early years of democracy. Transformation was a sacred word. It carried the hopes of a wounded nation, a promise to right historic wrongs, dismantle exclusion, and uplift those who had been crushed under apartheid's machinery. But today, transformation is no longer a moral mission. It is a political weapon, a smokescreen, a shield, a sword. In the hands of the post-liberation elite, the language of justice has been hijacked, not to serve the poor, but to protect insiders, silence critics, and justify incompetence. This is the new face of state power. The abuse of noble words. To defend ignoble actions, criticize corruption. You're against transformation. Raise concerns about mismanagement, looting, or poor performance, and you'll be accused of being anti-transformation, racist, or privileged. The transformation script has become a blunt instrument to shut down accountability. Label whistleblowers as enemies of progress. Deflect attention from failure to historical context. In this narrative, performance is secondary. Competence is negotiable, but loyalty to the liberation myth, non-negotiable. B. From redress to racket black economic empowerment, began as a noble vision to expand the economy to the black majority. But over time, it became cadre economic enrichment. Instead of broadening opportunity, often concentrates wealth in the hands of politically connected elites, locks out skilled black entrepreneurs who lack party ties, turns tenders into tools of patronage, reduces empowerment to shareholding schemes for insiders. Meanwhile, the black unemployed majority in villages, townships, and informal settlements remain exactly where they were, powerless. Transformation became transaction. Justice became justification. The racial trap, the greatest irony. Those who weaponize transformation claim to be anti-racist, but they need race to stay in power. They invoke race to divide citizens, justify inefficiency, excuse poor governance, mobilize voters through fear, not policy. This is race as currency, not for reconciliation, but for control. And it works. Because in a wounded society, identity is a powerful lever. But here's the danger. When transformation is reduced to slogans, and justice is filtered through tribalism, the outcome is a broken society pretending to be free. Equity without excellence is a lie. Equity and redress are necessary, but without excellence, they mean nothing. A diverse team with no skills collapses a project. A black-owned firm that wins contracts through connection, not capacity, fails to deliver. A representative public service that cannot fix a road or supply a hospital is still a failure. In a just society, race should never be used to protect rot. Yet in the behemoth bureaucratic state, transformation is too often a cover for mediocrity. The silence of the thoughtful. There are many capable, black professionals, honest, brilliant, and ready to serve. But they are often pushed aside because they refuse to bow to party politics or sing the slogans of decay. Meanwhile, those who see the truth and speak it are called traitors, coconuts, or sellouts. This is how justice dies, not through guns, but through guilt-tripping and gatekeeping, manufactured enemies to keep the illusion alive. The state must always have an enemy. White monopoly capital, counter-revolutionaries, right-wing media, Western agendas. These enemies are often imaginary, but useful. They help shift blame. They help justify failure. They help rally the base when real service has failed. But the real enemy is not outside. It is the internal decay, masked by moral language. Conclusion: reclaiming real transformation. If South Africa is to move forward, transformation must be reclaimed, not as a slogan, but as a serious, results-driven mission. That means redefining empowerment around ability and integrity, not slogans and slogans. Measuring progress by delivery, not demographic reports. Choosing leaders by character, not connections. Justice cannot be used to justify theft. Redress cannot become repression. Equity cannot mean economic apartheid in reverse. The behemoth bureaucratic state has learned to speak the language of justice fluently, but its hands are empty. It is time to call the bluff. Chapter 5: Democracy as Decoration. How the people's voice was reduced to voting day every 5 years. The ballot boxes come out. The posters go up. The music plays. The promises rain down, and the people disillusioned. Exhausted, but still hopeful. Cue once more. They vote, but after the results are announced, and the celebrations fade, so does their voice. Their needs are shelved. Their cries are ignored. Their anger is pacified with slogans and spin. This is not democracy. It is decorative democracy, where elections are treated as evidence of freedom. Even as governance remains indifferent, closed, and unaccountable. The myth of people power. South Africa's constitution promises a participatory democracy, but in practice, participation ends at the ballot box. Public consultations are staged, not sincere. Community meetings are dominated by party loyalists. Petitions gather dust. Protests are met with police or silence. This is not the will of the people. It's the performance of inclusion designed to validate decisions already made. The people are not partners. They are props. Voting without power voting is essential. But when voting doesn't change the lived experience, it becomes a ritual without substance. Ask the voter in Alexandra who has seen 4 mayors come and go, but still has no title deed. Ask the pensioner in Butterworth who has voted since 1994 but still walks to fetch water. Ask the youth in Soshanguve who voted for hope, but has never held a job. Democracy loses its soul when it loses its feedback loop. When voting no longer brings change, apathy takes root. And when apathy spreads, democracy becomes a decorative veil over rising autocracy. Parliament, the people's theatre. Parliament is meant to be the beating heart of democracy, where the people's representatives debate, hold power to account, and shape the nation's future. Instead, debates are reduced to party slogans. Questions are dodged with vague, scripted responses. Portfolio committees are stacked with loyalists. Whistleblowers are ignored or attacked. Oversight visits are sanitized and staged. Rather than a watchdog, Parliament often behaves like a PR firm for the executive. When MPs are told to toe the line rather than speak the truth, the people lose their last line of defense. Local government, the forgotten tier municipalities, are supposed to be the closest tier to the people, the place where service delivery is most direct. Instead, local government has become the graveyard of democracy. Corrupt tenders, dysfunctional councils, endless infighting, no clean audits, no consequence management. Community members attend IDP meetings with passion and proposals only to be patronized, sidelined, or excluded. Their needs are filtered through political games. Their input is ignored unless it aligns with internal faction interests. This is democracy in appearance, but authoritarianism in function. Manufactured consent. Managed dissent. When people stop believing in formal channels, they take to the streets. But even protest is now managed, co-opted by political actors, discredited by state media, suppressed by police, ignored by Parliament. The state listens when it suits them, and labels dissent incitement when it ends. Single quotes, This is how the behemoth, bureaucratic state protects itself. Not through tanks and bans, but through a web of fake consultation, controlled outrage, and electoral manipulation. Democracy, as a stage plane, the behemoth state. Elections are staged events. Voters are treated like audiences. Political leaders are actors reading scripts. The media plays along, and the story ends the same. Power stays where it is. This is not government by the people. It is government for the powerful, using the people as cover. Conclusion. The danger of decorative democracy, democracy that silences its citizens between elections, is not a democracy. It is a polite dictatorship wrapped in the flag of freedom. When people no longer believe their voice matters, they stop voting. When they stop voting, democracy becomes a display, not a defense. If we want to rescue the republic, we must revive the meaning of participation beyond ballots, beyond slogans, beyond staged engagements. The voice of the people is not decoration. It is the foundation of legitimacy. And once that foundation crumbles, everything else falls with it. Chapter 6: The Cult of Comradeship. How party loyalty replaced public duty. There was a time when the word comrade meant something sacred, a fellow fighter in the trenches, a brother or sister in the struggle for freedom and dignity. Today, it means something else. It means belonging to the club that runs the country. It means access to power, tenders, positions, and protection. It means never being held accountable, as long as you remain loyal. This is the cult of comradeship, a system where party loyalty has replaced public duty and governance has been reduced to internal alliances, factional favors, and silent obedience. From freedom fighters to gatekeepers after 1994, many hoped the liberation movement would evolve into a modern ethical governing party. But instead of transitioning from movement to meritocracy, it entrenched itself, turning governance into a closed circuit of insiders. Within this system, you don't get promoted because you serve the people well. You rise because you understand the movement, know the right people, or kept quiet when it mattered. Cadres who speak out are exiled. Cadres who loot but keep the secrets are rewarded. This is not leadership. It is cult management. The inner ring, how the system operates inside the cult of comradeship. Loyalty is the highest currency. Silence is golden. Competence is optional. The party is always right, even when it's wrong. Whether you're in a municipality, a provincial legislature, a state-owned enterprise, or a national ministry, your survival depends on who you align with, not what you achieve. The state is no longer run for citizens, it is run for internal stability, a careful balancing of comradeship, patronage, and manufactured consensus. Deployment versus duty. The ANC's policy of cadre deployment did not just fill the state with party loyalists. It replaced constitutional duty with political obligation. Public servants are no longer servants of the Constitution. They are foot soldiers of the party, placed strategically across the courts, the police, the media regulatory bodies, and most critically, procurement officers once deployed. Their job is not to uphold law or improve delivery. Their job is to advance the revolution, which often means protecting the comrades and neutralizing threats. Loyalty trumps ethics. The cult has unwritten rules. If a comrade is caught stealing, protect him. If a comrade is exposed, deny or deflect. If a comrade is arrested, blame enemies of transformation. If a comrade turns whistleblower, destroy them. It's why honest officials are isolated. It's why internal audits are buried. It's why Babita Deokaran was murdered. It's why Ralph Konyan was gunned down in public view. In this system, truth is betrayal. Faction over country. The cult of comradeship would be bad enough if it merely protected the party. But worse, it is now divided against itself. Factions within factions. Comrades at war with comrades, each fighting not over ideology, but over access to resources. This internal warfare paralyzes governance, delays appointments, destroys institutions, fuels corruption investigations that go nowhere, and replaces service delivery with political chess. The result: a government at war with itself. While the country burns, the silence of the civil service in a healthy democracy. The civil service is a professional buffer, neutral, ethical, dedicated to law and delivery. But in South Africa, many departments are staffed with people who owe their positions to comradeship, not capacity. That's why corrupt instructions go unchallenged. Dodgy deals are signed without protest, irregular appointments are rubber-stamped, and wrongdoers are defended. Not dismissed. It is not a lack of knowledge, it is a culture of fear, silence, and factional self-preservation. Conclusion: dismantling the cult, the behemoth bureaucratic state, is not just inefficient. It is built on a deep betrayal of public trust, a betrayal masked by liberation rhetoric and protected by a cult of sin. We must break the cult, end cadre deployment, reprofessionalize the civil service, protect whistleblowers. Demand loyalty to the Constitution, not to factions. Restore the idea that serving the public is a calling, not a stepping stone to power. Until then, we will remain trapped in a country where comrades rule and the people. Chapter 7: The Empire of Committees. How endless meetings replaced real decisions in South Africa. The state is always busy. Officials are in meetings. Managers are in workshops. Politicians are in consultations. There is always a stakeholder engagement, a strategic planning session, a high-level roundtable. PowerPoint slides circulate. Minutes are drafted. Attendance registers are signed. Decisions. Rare implementation. Delayed accountability. Missing: this is not governance, it is administrative theater, a grand performance where the state appears in motion. This is the empire of committees, a sprawling machinery of talk, built to avoid decisions and absorb blame across 100 rooms. A meeting culture gone madden, the behemoth bureaucratic state. Meetings are no longer a tool, they are a religion. Managers spend more time preparing for meetings than doing their actual work. Junior staff are dragged into week-long strategy reviews for projects that never launch. Consultants are hired to facilitate dialogues that resolve nothing. Public hearings are staged for policies already decided. It's a culture where the problem is discussed, never solved. The issue is tabled, never tackled. The report is noted, never acted on. and the calendar remains full, even when delivery is empty. The illusion of consensus committees are sold as inclusive, but often function as avoidance tools. When something is politically risky or unpopular, a task team is formed. A steering committee is appointed. An independent panel is created. A working group is commissioned. What this really means is, delay the decision, spread the responsibility, and let the urgency fade by the time the report is finalized. The moment has passed, the outrage has cooled, and the culprits have moved on or been promoted. When everyone is responsible, no one major feature of the empire of committees is diluted accountability. There are so many boards, panels, councils, subcommittees, and interdepartmental forums that no one is ever directly blamed when something goes wrong. A collapsed bridge, it was under review. A failed tender, the procurement subcommittee handled it. A scandal, awaiting findings from the disciplinary forum. A corruption case, the ethics committee is investigating. The more players in the room, the less heat any single one absorbs. This is bureaucratic insulation, a padded environment where incompetence survives by hiding in the crowd. Paper output, real-world paralysis. These committees don't produce change, they produce paper. Concept notes, draft reports, frameworks, policy guidelines, consultation summaries, resolutions to be taken forward. Every output becomes another file in another cabinet, but the streets stay unpaved, the clinics stay broken. The people keep waiting. South Africa has become a nation where we plan more than we build, and talk more than we act. The consultant complex, their empire of committees, is also a business. Consultants, facilitators, and advisory firms have built entire empires of their own by feeding the state's addiction to meetings. They are paid millions to host dialogues, write reports, conduct surveys, create toolkits, produce findings. Already known, it's a revolving door. Government hires consultants to write what it should already know, then ignores the recommendations until another crisis emerges and a new consultant is hired. This isn't incompetence. It's intentional dependency, a way to transfer public funds to politically connected experts while appearing serious. Meetings that mean nothing. Real governance is messy. It requires decisions. It requires saying no. But in the empire of committees, everything is deferred to the next meeting. Instead of action, we take note of your concerns. Let's establish a working group. We propose a follow-up session. The matter is under deliberation. Translation: nothing will happen. Conclusion: dismantling the meeting industrial complex. The behemoth bureaucratic state does not fail because it lacks ideas. It fails because it replaces action with endless deliberation. Until we break the habit of constant consultation without consequence, South Africa will remain stuck in a feedback loop of promises made, reports written, nothing delivered. The people don't want another stakeholder summit. They want electricity, water, jobs, safety, roads. The time for talking is over. The era of doing must begin. Chapter 8. From Public Service to Personal Empire. How Officials Turned Government into a Business. The word public servant once evoked humility, integrity, and sacrifice. A role taken not for wealth, but for meaning, to uplift, build, and serve. Today, for many in government, public service is not a calling. It is a career move, a stepping stone, a shortcut. A base for building personal empires using public money. State salaries are no longer seen as enough. Now, it's about the luxury car, the holiday conference, the catering tender for your cousin, the advisor job for your spouse, and the quiet directorship in a company that wins state contracts. This is not service. It is state-sponsored where the budget is seen not as a tool for nation building, but a pie to be carved up and consumed. Salary plus side hustles. Mid-level official can earn 1 million rands a year, add travel and subsistence, overtime claims, inflated cell phone allowances, and ghost projects, and the figure multiplies. But it doesn't stop there. Many officials own or secretly direct companies doing business with the state. Register family members as service providers. use inside information to secure tenders before they're even advertised, manipulate procurement systems for kickbacks, delay payment to honest vendors so their own companies can jump the queue. The same people entrusted to uphold integrity are often the first to exploit the system. Luxury at the expense of the people in rural villages and townships. People queue for hours for grants, clinics, or water. Meanwhile, municipal managers drive German sedans paid for by taxpayers. MECs hold planning sessions at luxury resorts. Departments spend millions on strategic retreats while infrastructure collapses. Senior officials travel business class to study poverty solutions in Europe and Dubai. The people are fed slogans. The elite are fed salmon. This is not accidental. It is a mentality. The state is our inheritance. We deserve to eat. Procurement, as empire-building thought of the behemoth's corruption lies in procurement, the process meant to ensure fair, transparent, and competitive use of public funds. In reality, it has become a gateway to empire. Officials write specifications to match their own companies. Tenders are split into smaller contracts to bypass thresholds. Emergency procurement is used to sidestep rules. Preferred vendors are rotated in a closed circle of allies and comrades. In this world, governance is not about serving citizens, it's about feeding networks, personal brands. Political clout. Today's official doesn't just want a pension, they want a brand, Instagram photos with foreign flags, panels and public speaking, custom suits with lapel pins, private security guards at public events, social media accounts praising their leadership. But behind the hashtags and high gloss is a hollow truth. They've built nothing but profiles, not outcomes. Real development is invisible. It's a road that works, a clinic that runs, a dam that stores water. But that doesn't trend, so the priority becomes optics, not outcomes. Office, as a family business. Public office is no longer just personal. It's dynastic. From local municipalities to parliament, entire families are employed by the state. A husband is an advisor. The wife owns the catering company. The brother-in-law does the printing. A mayor's cousin wins contracts to clean streets. An MEC's child becomes head of youth development. This is not coincidence. It's how public funds are domesticated, turned into private wealth by those with access. Why no one resigns in countries with integrity. When scandal hits, ministers step down. In South Africa, they dig in, they lawyer up, they cry political smear, they blame apartheid. They accuse critics of racism or counter-revolution, and they wait it out because the system protects insiders, not the public. Even when fired, many bounce back in new positions, new departments, or cushy soapboards, because in the behemoth bureaucratic state, failure is never punished unless you defy the cult. Conclusion: from parasite to patriots, South Africa does not need saints, but it desperately needs public servants who know the difference between duty and self-interest. Until we enforce lifestyle audits, disqualify conflicted officials, protect whistleblowers, end the culture of impunity, and restore pride in actual delivery, the state will remain an empire of takers, not builders. Public service is not a business, and the country is not a buffet. It's a covenant, and it must be honored. Chapter 9: How the Constitution was captured. Lawfare, delay, and the collapse of consequence. South Africa's constitution is hailed as one of the most progressive in the world. It promises dignity, equality, accountability, and justice. It is framed as a sacred contract, a covenant between the people and those who govern them. But paper means nothing without power. And today, the Constitution is no longer a sword to defend the people. It is a shield for the political elite. Welcome to the age of lawfare, where the law is not used to uphold justice, but to delay, deflect, and deny accountability, where legal technicalities matter more than truth, and where consequences are endlessly postponed until the public forgets. The capture of the Constitution, constitutional capture, is not loud. It doesn't involve tanks. It happens slowly, quietly. Here's how. Parliament fails to act on court rulings. Ministers ignore public protector reports with no consequence. Ethics committees are turned into theatre. Disciplinary processes take years and go nowhere. Court dates are delayed indefinitely. Commissions of inquiry produce libraries of findings, but no jail time. In this system, the Constitution is quoted often, but lived rarely. The weapon of the guilty lawfare is the strategic abuse of legal processes to delay justice, create confusion, undermine accountability, weaponize rights. Language for personal protection. It works like this. An official is exposed. They claim due process is being denied. They launch a counter-application. They cite procedural irregularities. They appeal, then appeal again. The result: years pass, evidence decays, witnesses vanish, the media cycle moves on, and the public, left in a fog of frustration. This is not justice, it is constitutional sabotage wearing a judge's robe. The Zondo Traptha, Zondo Commission was meant to be a reckoning. Instead, it became a national counseling session. Millions spent, testimonies heard, criminal networks exposed, and yet the same people walk free. The same looters speak on panels. The same power structures remain intact. Zondo gave us the evidence, but the state gave us excuses. This is the tragedy. We know everything, but we act on nothing. The collapse of consequence. In a healthy democracy, law leads to consequence. In South Africa, law leads to legal strategy. Officials who looted Eskom, bankrupted municipalities, abused procurement, or oversaw human rights violations are often still in office or quietly redeployed. The message is clear. If you steal enough, you can afford to escape. Consequence is reserved for the poor, the voiceless, and the outsider. Courts, as delay machines of in the judiciary, though often principled, is not immune. Delays are routine. Enforcement is weak. Court orders are ignored by departments. Corrupt officials use endless appeals to run out the clock by the time a case is settled. The money is gone, the office has changed, and the public has moved on. In the behemoth bureaucratic state, the law is slow by design. Officials claim victimhood when accused of corruption. Suspended cadres claim their right to fair process. While earning salaries, factions cry foul when discipline is enforced. Whistleblowers are sued for defamation. The result is a country where justice is paralyzed by its own vocabulary. Conclusion: restoring the rule of real law. The Constitution must be rescued from those who perform it, but do not obey it. That means fast-tracking justice for corruption, criminalizing political interference in law enforcement, ending strategic delays and abuse of process, holding officials to ethical oaths with penalties for betrayal, making public office a legal covenant, not a legal loophole. The Constitution is not a shield for comrades. It is a sword for citizens, and it must be sharpened once again. Chapter 10: The People Are Tired. Why South Africa's patience is running out for years. South Africans have been patient. They have queued, believed, hoped, and voted. They have written letters, filed complaints, attended public meetings, signed petitions, waited for promises to become reality. But today, you can feel it in the air. In the silence of the queues, in the empty gazes at community meetings, in the tired jokes about ministers who fly overseas while the lights are off, the people are tired, not of struggle, but of being betrayed. Democracy, without dignity. What use is a democracy if the water is dirty? What value is a vote when the pothole never gets fixed? How do you speak of freedom when a child dies in a pit latrine in 2024? This is not political fatigue. It is dignity fatigue. The slow erosion of belief that this country, this state, this leadership, still sees the people as human. It is the sound of a nation asking, what more must we endure? The everyday war. The poor fight daily wars. For electricity that stays on. For clinics that aren't closed. For police who respond. For schools that teach. For jobs that never arrive. Yet they are told to be patient. told to understand the challenges, told that Rome wasn't built in a day. Meanwhile, the political elite live like emperors on the hill. This is not governance. This is gaslighting with a megaphone. The collapse of belief. Once, the people believed that the struggle had a destination, that the new South Africa would be different, that those in power were still one of them. But today, that belief is fractured, not just among the poor. Even the middle class is slipping, paying for private security, private education, private healthcare, while still paying tax. Watching skilled professionals leave the country in waves, seeing institutions fall apart and excellence replaced with loyalty. It's no longer just frustration, it's a quiet, simmering national depression. Signs of the breaking point. You see it in low voter turnout, violent protests, shutdowns, young people who mock every speech, grandmothers who no longer wear party t-shirts, civil servants who go to work but have checked out mentally, citizens who say, "Let them collapse, we'll build on the ashes." South Africa is not a lazy nation. It is a nation tired of watching a rich few feast on its suffering. This is not sustainable. A state can survive criticism. It can survive anger, but it cannot survive indifference. When the people stop caring, stop believing, and stop participating. This is the danger facing South Africa now. The behemoth, bureaucratic state is still spinning its wheels, but the people have stepped off the bus. No amount of slogans, rallies, or presidential imbizos can fix what's been broken by years of deception, failure, and contempt. The window is closing. The people are not asking for miracles. They are asking for water, safety, honesty, jobs, justice, decency. If the political elite continues to ignore this call, they will face a reckoning, not of ideology, but of survival. No regime, no party, no bureaucracy can stand forever against the tired, waking will of the people. Conclusion: from behemoth to beacon. This is the final question. Can the state be reformed? Can it be returned to the people? Can it shed its bloated skin and be reborn, not as a parasite, but as a partner? That answer does not lie in Pretoria. It lies in citizens who organize, journalists who expose, whistleblowers who speak, communities who build, professionals who stay and fight. A new generation who refuses to inherit this broken machine. The behemoth, bureaucratic state will fall, either by reform or by rot. What rises after it depends on what the people are willing to rebuild, and they will, because though they are tired, they are not defeated. Closing statement: reclaim the Republic. South Africa is not dying, it is awakening. What you've read in these pages is not a lament, it is a warning, a mirror, and a map, a diagnosis of a state that grew too big to care, too loud to listen, too tangled to move. But the story is not over. Because the true power of a nation does not sit in offices, it rises from the people. Governments fall, parties fade, systems collapse, but nations endure when their people remember who they are. This is what you must know. You are not crazy. The decay is real. You are not alone. Millions see it, feel it, live it. You are not powerless. Every broken thing can be rebuilt. From below, this is what you must do. Speak. Silence is complicity. Organize. Build in your community. Start small. Expose. Use truth as your weapon. Refuse. Reject slogans, false unity, and comradeship without conscience. Support the honest, the reformers, the whistleblowers, the real servants. Protect the law, demand consequence, fight capture, vote wisely, or prepare to lead. And this is what you must believe. South Africa was never meant to be ruled by elites, managed by committees, or looted in the name of justice. It was meant to be a beacon, a republic of dignity, built by the many, not consumed by the few. That dream is wounded, but it is not dead. Now is the time to rise, not with slogans, but with substance, not with blind hope, but with clear eyes, clean hands, and courageous hearts. The behemoth will fall, and from its ruins, a better nation can rise. The future does not belong to the system. It belongs to those who refuse to be swallowed by it. It belongs to you.
Colors of South Africa, bright and true. Diverse.
You've just listened to South African Journey, where truth is told, memory is preserved, and a new future is imagined from the ashes of the old. If this story stirred you, challenged you, or opened your eyes, don't let it end here. Subscribe, share, and become part of this growing movement to reclaim South Africa's voice, not from politicians, but from the people. Until next time, walk with courage, speak with clarity, and live with purpose. This is not the end. It's just another step on the journey.